All right, so we have this brand new article coming out talking about how the Bethesda acquisition from Xbox has been slowly starting to hurt PlayStation in the long term. Now, there's a lot of information in here, and for several years, Xbox has owned Bethesda, but it's just starting to come out that Sony and their fans are starting to feel the pain during the PlayStation 5 generation. Let's get into everything that's being talked about. Let's get into the games that they might be missing out on, and let's see if this article actually holds some weight. So let's get into this. Alright, so you know the drill. If you like the content, hit that subscribe button and that like button. And if you want to be notified on future videos, hit that small little bell icon. And if you want to go that extra mile to support the channel, hit that join button. All the support is greatly appreciated. Alright, so I just want to jump into this because it does seem kind of funny that articles and the media are starting to report how big that Bethesda acquisition is from Xbox. Now, I know several years ago, was it about 2 years ago, these articles were coming out like crazy about how Xbox still needs to start getting games out of their Bethesda acquisition, how it's going to be several years until Xbox starts to bring out exclusive games, and how Sony does have exclusive games locked up with Bethesda that's going to take a while to show what Xbox can truly do. Well, now you fast forward to now, and it's starting to become very clear that Microsoft wasn't playing the short game. They weren't even playing the medium game. They were playing the long game with their exclusives and their acquisition of ZeniMax Media. So let's jump into the article and see what it has to say. The early days of Microsoft Bethesda acquisition didn't have much of an impact on PlayStation. In fact, pre-existing agreements saw Microsoft actually release some Bethesda published games as timed PlayStation 5 exclusives post-acquisition. This included Deathloop, a critically acclaimed first-person shooter game from Arcane, giving PS5 a big leg up over Microsoft's own Xbox. Deathloop was followed by Ghostwire Tokyo, which didn't earn quite the same level of acclaim from critics, but was still a notable release since it came from Resident Evil creator Mikami and Tango Gameworks. Both games were console exclusive to PlayStation 5 for an entire year, though they eventually came to Xbox and the Game Pass service. With the commitments to bring Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo to PS5 out of the way, the next Bethesda published title was primed to release an Xbox console exclusive, skipping PlayStation entirely. That game was Redfall, a co-op vampire shooter from Arcane that had a decent amount of hype behind it prior to release, given its status as an Xbox first-party game. Unfortunately, Redfall fell way short of expectations, earning mostly negative reviews from critics and standing out as one of the lowest-rated games ever published by Bethesda. Now, when you look at everything that released, that's kind of what the painted picture was. We saw Redfall release, we saw all these games coming out, and I have to say that it wasn't looking that good for Xbox. I understand that Hi-Fi Rush came out, and a lot of people loved that game, and it's highly rated, but it was a surprise drop and a shadow drop that I think is one of the biggest surprises of the year. But when we look at big AAA games, when we look at things that actually push consoles or push the system and the platform of Xbox, Bethesda and ZeniMax didn't really do that. That's until everything came out with Starfield and all those leaks that showed the future of what Xbox has to hold. Here's what's said in the article. While it certainly has its detractors, Starfield reviews were largely positive, with the game being praised for successfully translating the open world style of gameplay found in the Elder Scrolls and Fallout to an outer space setting. Starfield didn't just earn a great deal of acclaim from critics though. The game has also enjoyed strong sales, with Starfield proving to be a system seller for Xbox consoles in some regions. Its status as a day one Xbox Game Pass makes it likely that it also helped bring new gamers to the platform as well, making Starfield an all-around win for the Xbox brand and the first major blow to PlayStation from the Bethesda acquisition. Future Bethesda published games will be following Starfield's example and skipping PlayStation, so the impact of Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda will only grow over time. Upcoming games like the new Indiana Jones game from Bethesda Studio Machine Games will be Xbox exclusive, not to mention Elder Scrolls 6. The Elder Scrolls 6 is easily one of the most highly anticipated games currently in development, and the fact that it is most likely skipping PlayStation is going to deal a significant blow whenever the game finally releases. Now, I have to say that I think it is starting to become very apparent that Xbox was not here to play games. We look at all of the lineup and the leak that we had about all their exclusive games coming out just from the ZeniMax acquisition, it is going to be extremely difficult for Sony to compete when it comes to first-party games. And it's going to be extremely difficult for Sony because they are not going to be able to go approach a studio within ZeniMax Media and buy exclusivity like they did with Deathloop, like they did with Ghostwire, and like what it was being reported and actually confirmed by Phil Spencer during the Activision Blizzard acquisition. They were trying to get Starfield to be exclusive. And they were not going to have that at all. They knew that they needed Starfield on their platform, and they knew they couldn't keep it on the PlayStation platform. So when they bought ZeniMax, they made it exclusive. They are playing cutthroat games over here, everyone. I don't think people realize that these games, and especially Bethesda, is going to start cascading down as the years go on and as this generation starts to build momentum. Let's think about it for a second. Just Starfield and Redfall came out this year, and you throw in Hi-Fi Rush, and you throw in Motorsport, because that game is very anticipated by a lot of people. That's 4 games that came out just this year for Xbox, and it's going to be exclusive. We're not even talking about next year. We're not talking about the potential of a bunch of other games coming out. And if you looked at that leak that I brought out in a video a few weeks ago, it was showing that Bethesda has 2 to 3 games a year coming out for the next several years. Now, of course, things can change and some things will get delayed, but there's 3 AAA games coming out from just one section, one development team and publisher, so to speak, from the Xbox brand. That doesn't even include the Xbox Game Studio brand that is starting to bring out their games. This is where things are starting to get a little drastic with PlayStation. I know they have amazing exclusives. I know they're going to have the Spider-Man 2 come out, which I'm super hyped for in 2 weeks. But when you look at everything else, it is starting to become a little more apparent, especially since those court documents came out, that Bethesda games, Elder Scrolls, and the biggest game that Bethesda makes is going to be exclusive to Xbox, and it's something that's brought up here. Those same court documents have reaffirmed what many already assumed, that the Elder Scrolls 6 will be Xbox console exclusive and skip PS5. That being said, the door hasn't been completely shut on the possibility of the Elder Scrolls 6 eventually coming to PlayStation. Xbox executives seem reluctant to state definitely that the Elder Scrolls 6 won't be on PlayStation, but fans shouldn't hold their breath. If Elder Scrolls 6 does ever come to non-Xbox platforms, one has to imagine it will be sometime after the Xbox version launches, if ever. This is starting to become what everybody was thinking it was going to be 2 years ago. When Xbox bought Bethesda, it was really cool. People were very hyped. I enjoyed it. I loved it because it was just a very good news item to talk about, and it was changing the industry. Not to mention, I do have to say, Bethesda, I feel, is benefiting dramatically from what Xbox is providing them, which is money and time to develop. I mean, they wanted to release Starfield 2 years ago and Redfall 2 years ago, but we're given an extra 2 years to give them polish. Redfall could have used another 2 years of polish, but that's another story. And I do have to say that PlayStation is starting to feel the impact of this acquisition, and it's something the article brings up. Xbox's acquisition of Bethesda is finally having an impact on PlayStation, and it's possible something similar will happen with the company's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. With major hurdles cleared, it's expected that Microsoft will close its deal to acquire the Call of Duty publisher soon. Something that will keep that record-breaking acquisition from having quite as immediate of an impact is that Microsoft has agreed to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation for at least the next 10 years. That doesn't mean other Activision Blizzard published games won't release on Xbox console exclusives, or there won't be other Xbox exclusive perks for Call of Duty gamers on Microsoft platform though. And I do need to say this. I think the Activision Blizzard deal isn't going to have that big of an impact as people think when it comes to the PlayStation side. Sure, there might be some games that are Xbox exclusive. Sure, there might be some other ones. But overall, the games that Activision Blizzard make, they want to keep that population massive. So they're going to put it on every platform, PlayStation, PC, mobile, you name it, they'll put it there. So I think that's going to have more impact on Game Pass when you look at the PC side of things, because that's what I've always said. Xbox is focusing on PC. They are basically one of the biggest PC developers in the game, and I think that they're going to make the Activision Blizzard game work in their favor when it comes to that platform. Now, of course, there's going to be several years going by where PlayStation is starting to feel the pain of what that acquisition means. But right now, when you look at this year, you look at next year, and you look at the next 2 years, it's starting to become very apparent that PlayStation is going to feel this impact of those Bethesda games not being there. The exclusive Xbox Bethesda games. That is what's going to happen for the next several years. And I think it's going to reach critical heights when Indiana Jones comes out, when Doom comes out, the new one that's been leaked, and of course, in about a couple years, or call it 5 years, when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out. I think that's going to be the tipping point where people realize that a lot of these big games are going to be on Xbox only, and PlayStation's missing out on some of the biggest games of the generation. But I honestly want to know what you think. Do you think that Sony is missing out on a lot of big games, or do you think this is a little bit hyperbolic? I don't think so. I think that missing out on Starfield is huge. Now, I'm not the biggest Starfield fan. I'm not sitting here saying that I love the game. I'm saying that it's a massive game that millions of people are obviously loving, and it is one of the biggest games, and it came out on a year that has massive games attached to it. So you got to look at it on that scale. If it released on any other year, call it last year, it'd be the biggest game of the year, bar none, and it's not even close. Well, maybe next to Elden Ring. But overall, I want to know what you think about this. Do you think that Xbox is finally going to start hitting PlayStation where it hurts, the Xbox exclusive games? And do you think PlayStation can recover or even compete when it comes to these types of games? Or do you think PlayStation is going to turn around and buy big games and big studios to try to compete in that way? Let me know down below, because that's what I want to know, is what you think about this. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support helps out the channel more than you know. And give me a follow on Twitter at Zalker87. I'm always on there talking games and sharing my latest videos. Plus, I love interacting with everyone there, so get on Twitter and let's talk about gaming. Also, follow me on Xbox Live. My gamertag is Zalker87, just like my channel name. See what games I'm playing, and let's compete in achievements for the month. So right now, I've been jumping into Jedi Survivor. I'm loving the game. I think it's one of the best games coming out this year. I just think it's very well done. And not to mention, they just brought out the patch that gives it a performance mode. It actually gives DLSS, and I'm loving it. It's so smooth. Ray tracing is on point. Everything about the game is running smoothly. They finally fixed it. It took them a few months, about 5 months, to get this right. But I gotta say, it was well worth the wait. The Star Wars franchise is one of my favorites. I'm loving every minute of it. And so far, I can't wait to get over this game, because I'm going to beat it, and then I'm directly jumping into Spider-Man 2, which I've been highly anticipated for several years. Spider-Man is one of my favorite games. I have to admit that. I loved it. I love the franchise. I've beaten it probably 3 times. So jumping into Spider-Man 2 is going to be awesome. And I'm going to be playing that the whole weekend, because that's what I want to do. But let me know what you're playing. Are you playing something on your Xbox, your PlayStation, your PC? Are you on your Steam Deck or even your Rogue Ally? Let me know down below, because that's what we're here for. It's to talk games. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.